The next presentation, AMA with Monty. It is Mikael Widenius, the creator of Mariadb, who is inviting you to ask him anything. Welcome, Monty, Mikael Widenius, for the Ask Me Anything session.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, so am I. I have a couple of tricky questions for you. Lots of good questions here coming. We're monitoring the Zulip chat for further questions, so we reserve a bit at the end for the new ones, but I've already grouped the questions here into strategic questions and political questions and hardware questions and development questions. And I can tell the viewers I have not prepared Monty. We'll get the best more answers from Monty by being very spontaneous. So the first question, how do you feel, Monty?
Feeling good. I think the conference is doing great. I was really happy with Peter Zaitsev. He was doing good.
So what do you expect? Well, I won't ask you what do you expect people to ask. Instead, I will pick the first question by somebody whom you know. You've met him in Albania, Tirana, 2005, Ervin Rucci. He's asking, is making Mariadb the fastest database your first priority?
Let's say you can never be fastest in everything, but I do have a sweet spot for performance, and I like to get the most out of the machine. So everything we do, or especially what I do, is regarding to do the best you can with little resources. And I'm happy to see that MySQL 6.0, actually, sorry, not MySQL 6.0, Mariadb 10.6 is about performance. So right. We have the whole team doing mostly performance things that should have been fixed a long time ago, or kind of just been forgotten. So I expect a lot of new interesting things.
A bit because your questions need to be fairly short because we have so many exciting questions. The second question here is an evergreen that I suppose you've answered many times before. How do you compare Mariadb with Postgres in one sentence?
I think they're both great databases, and it depends on your usage. If you're going to use a cluster setup, then I think that Mariadb is the better choice. We have more experience in that. If you are just using, have an extensible database and you have programmers and you want to do extensions, then Postgres is more suitable for that.
So then a question on the differences between Mariadb and MySQL. So Mariadb is innovating a lot, and sometimes this is from Abbas, is asking that it feels like they are becoming different products altogether when comparing Oracle MySQL, Performance Server, Maria. He believes that features like dynamic columns and JSON type support and InnoDB, ExtraDB should be available in all three. What's your take on that?
I think that we are more following the model that we had from MySQL time, where we trying to do stable releases and do maintain most of those, and something that is suitable for community to be part of. MySQL is not doing that. I think from the developed model is totally different. And from there also follows that the feature set that we add will be different.
So a follow-up question from Abbas was, do you think that a free non-BSL version, this is not related to Mariadb Foundation, but it's Ask Me Anything, so anyway, I will ask you, is such a version of Mariadb max scale, will it be made available for binlog use cases?
I mean, what we are doing, have promised, is that all the releases with all features will be available to the community after a certain time. And that's the whole idea with the BSL. So everything that is max scale is now will be sooner or later available to the community.
Mm-hmm. Then we have another tricky political question. So Heinz is asking, what is the difference between the Mariadb Foundation and the Mariadb Corporation?
So the foundation is engineered to satisfy users and developers, especially people who wants to do commit and help participate in developing Mariadb. And we also take charge of the code in the sense that we guarantee it is always free. The corporation, on the other hand, handles customers and requests where there has to be a timely answer and help when needed.
So what does that mean from a development perspective?
From a development perspective, the corporation has most of the developers in the Mariadb ecosystem, and they are paying those and driving development. While from the foundation, we have mostly handling pull requests from users, but we're also doing development on things that affects a big part of the user base, and also taking patches from including Percona, MySQL, and the whole community. So we take over the maintenance of those patches when they get into the server.
And what does it mean from a customer perspective?
From a customer perspective, it means that you get the best of the both worlds. You get open source development from a big community, and you have a vendor who can satisfy all your commercial needs and support needs.
So there, the presentation prior to yours was from Peter Zaitsev, and he had an observation that he found it interesting that when you download MariaDB server from mariadb.org, after the download, you end up with a page from mariadb.com. What's your comment on that?
Yeah, we are trying to be nice within the MariaDB ecosystem, and the corporation provides both support both for the community and customers, and also the knowledge base and everything else. And they provide a lot of extra information that is useful for people who download MariaDB. So we made an agreement that they can maintain that and take that away from the hands from the foundation. I mean, there's no forced registration or anything.
Mm-hmm. Then Vincent is asking, what's being done to address the outstanding multi-year long bug reports, not long bug reports, but year-long bug reports for MariaDB, especially for bugs that cause crashes or data corruption?
Let's say everything that is a crash with data corruption should have a ticket information that says that this is a major and it has to be fixed in the next release. So there shouldn't be any crashing bugs, at least not something that affects a notable part of the user base. There's always corner cases, but not corner cases should also always be fixed in the next release. Mm-hmm. So there's other feature requests that are not critical. They can be in the knowledge base, not knowledge base, but in the Jira quite long until somebody sees a need that get this fixed or added.
Okay, I still have some strategic questions left, but I also have a limited amount of time to ask you. So I'm jumping now to some technical questions. So James is asking, what feature of MariaDB are you the most proud of?
I'm actually most proud of something that's not many people think is interesting, that we actually take good care of our user base. We care about that upgrades are easy. You can take any MariaDB version and upgrade to the latest one or anything in between directly without doing something. And that means that you need to take good handling of both storage, the protocol, and everything else, ensure compatibility. You can also take any old MySQL or MariaDB client and it will work unchanged to MariaDB. This is just so that you have no pain. I hate upgrade with passion because every time I upgrade my laptop, something breaks. And I'm trying to do my best to ensure that doesn't happen with MariaDB. When it comes to features, I think that the replications features we have S3, the online alter table that's on new in MariaDB. They are all exciting, but it's much harder to say which feature is the most exciting one. All developers are looking most closely to what they are coding themselves.
That came from the heart. So now Dion is asking, every piece of software, this is a fun question, so you can relax. Every piece of software can be made to do something it is not designed for. often when there's something far simpler and more suited to the purpose. So what's the single most ridiculous thing you've seen Mariadb being used for that it really just should not be used for?
Mariadb is kind of designed for being something that can easily access from the web. But I have horror stories from the old times before Mariadb and MySQL, where people are just misusing my products. But with the databases, if you try to store the wrong kind of information that is not designed for, then it's a bad thing. But I don't have any real horror stories of that. I'm more about real horror stories of the wrong uses of databases when we go to customers and when they complain about things work perfectly 1 year ago and no things are so slow. And you still today find that they don't have a single index. It's kind of incredible that MariaDB works even in those cases.
So now we're getting more technical. Hamza says that currently JSON as a data type is just an alias for long text when in MySQL, when would the MySQL-like JSON table be planned?
According to the SQL standard, JSON is text, and we are trying to follow the standard. And MySQL did something different for performance reasons, but our JSON is as fast or faster than MySQL, so we kind of proved that that was not needed. And so we are trying to follow the standard, and the only thing that is missing big thing that is missing in MariaDB 10.5 is JSON table. We almost had it ready, but it didn't make the deadline for the release, so that will be in 10.6.
So how do you compare using JSON functions on the JSON data type with dynamic column functions on a blob data type?
Basically, it's more or less the same as long as you have one simple row. Basically, dynamic columns is there to say that you can have any amount of columns, not arrays or arrays, but just that. And that's the most common things. The benefit of dynamic columns is that every column is typed. So you know that when you put in a date, you get out a date and you can know it's a date. And that's one of the problems with JSON. You have no difference between dates, string, booleans, or anything else. So if you want to have typed and ensure that you don't get dates that is 32nd of December, you should use dynamic columns.
Mm-hmm. So I have two community questions. So for people who learn and use MariaDB, what guidelines do you have to provide to help learning the source code if you want to become a contributor? How should one behave?
To learn the source code is basically you take a problem and try to solve it, and then you dig into it. And we have tutorials in the knowledge base of how to do that. But when you get a stumbling block, you shouldn't just sit there and trying to solve everything yourself. You should go to the free node or preferably Zulib and connect directly with the developers of MariaDB who can give you hints. And that's the best way to learn. You can also use the email list to ask questions about how does this work and everything else. And especially the foundation, one of the purpose of it is to help newbies. So you can contact the foundation, and if you don't think that we have doing a good job through Zulib or other things, then tell us, and we will try to improve.
Mm-hmm.
But doing a pull request is the easiest way to get your code in. But the problem is, as you said, what should you do before you can do that? And then you have to use one of the channels.
Good. Okay, so then I have a fairly open-ended community question. What can I do to help you? So I don't really know whether this is a person who wants to code or write documentation, but if there's a developer who wishes to help with MariaDB server, what's the type of help that we need?
I mean, you can help either with documentation, or you can spread the news about our fantastic MariaDB Foundation Fest and tell everybody about it. You can add help adding links to MariaDB Foundation and the project. But the best way is just to be active. Go to the email list or Zulip or Freenode and help other users. And you get much credit within the community when you're doing that. We can help both the project and also yourself when you want to get a job somewhere in the database environment.
Right. So,
and the last thing is that if you want to do the development in the knowledge base, we have a link for easy to solve issues, especially for newbies. Take one of those.
Mm-hmm. So then I got commercial questions. They are not really related to Mariadb Foundation, but hey, we said, ask me anything. So Joel is asking, could you tell us about the high growth of Mariadb in the Latin American market? Have you been to the Latin American market and what's your take?
Personally, I'm not part of the group who handles customers' relationship in that market. But in Latin America, I have been attending Mariadb conferences during this wonderful time when you could still travel. I have been in Peru, Brazil, Argentina, and so on. So I really enjoy being in Latin America, and I would love to start going again when things start to open up. And but I know when I was there, there's lots of Mariadb users, but I don't know how many commercial ones.
So the second and last commercial question here is by Santinesh. He's saying, is Mariadb working on some enterprise monitoring tool? And I hope you can say anything about monitoring tools that you know that will be interesting.
Yeah, so we did have some presentation about SkySQL, which is the in the cloud offering of Mariadb, and the cooperation of creating monitoring tools within that environment as a complement to our proxy. So that's kind of coming, and I don't know if the license of that eventually. Currently, you can try them out in the SkySQL cloud. Hopefully, we'll have them under BSL. At least that's my hope.
Okay, then two hardware questions here. Richard is asking, have you started to experiment with ARM server builds yet?
So we have ARM in our build bot. So every single push we do is tested on ARM. So from stability point of view, yes. From performance view, we haven't done any specific optimization for ARM yet. And for that, we need somebody to work with the Mariadb Foundation to make that happen, or the corporation.
So Samuel is asking, what's the plan with Nvram?
So we already have some patches for Nvram, in other words, persistent memory. And what we have now is that we can store part of or the whole of the InnoDB redo logs in there, which gives you quite a big boost in performance. And we are planning to do much more. But the question is that when will SSD truly replace hard disk, and when will Nvram truly replace SSDs? We are trying to work with all vendors to ensure that whatever you are using, you will get the best performance that is possible with the database. As I said earlier, perfect performance is a passion, and I want to use the latest hardware to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. So one more technical question, and then I will go to a fun question. So John is asking about time series databases. Specialized time series database systems are all the rage, he says. How should one use Mariadb to store and query large-scale time series with billions of time series points in a table?
First, let's take it the black and or helicopter view. A time series database is one normal SQL table that has one index less. That's it. So the only thing that you really win with the time series database is that the retrieval on time is faster because everything is sorted according to time. But with modern hardware, how often do you decide which database to use based if you have one index more or less? So I would say that a lot of the hype about time series databases is just that, hype. If you want to run with petabytes of data, we have column store who can handle that. It doesn't need time series because it internally does some of the same optimization that you would do in a time series database. So it automatically notices that in this block, we only have data for this time series. So we only examine that block. So you get the same benefit with column store as you get from a time series database in most of the cases. And column store is totally open source and free, which is not the case for many of the other time series databases.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, I'll still ask a follow-up question because you mentioned column store. So what are the new features that you're most proud of or that you want to highlight in the latest Mariadb version?
Regarding column store?
Well, regarding the latest Mariadb version, it may be column store if you wish to say that, or it may be something else.
In 10.5, we were more concentrating on ensuring stability and fixing things than adding a lot of new features. But the two main features that is totally new is the S3 engine and the column store engine. So those are something that people probably have not tried out, especially not in earlier Mariadb versions, and they definitely should look up on those because they can greatly change how your operations are working.
So then for the fun question, how the sea lion of Mariadb, it doesn't have a name, does it?
No, it's poor, nameless little creature.
And what
do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you plan to do about that?
In the MySQL time, we had the same problem with a little poor orphan delphin. And we reached out to the community and asked, is there something you can suggest? And I think that we should do the same thing with the poor little sea lion.
Okay, and the suggestion, it should be a suggestion of the name, but should the suggestion contain something else than just the name?
I think that the best part of the MySQL Dolphin contest was that we got lots of really good names and explanation for why this name. And that was really, really funny and helpful. And that actually helped us choose Sakila. So I really would like to suggest that people who want to participate don't only come up with a good name, come also up with a short story, why and how the sea lion got that name.
So we will set up such a competition, such a game for people to suggest a name and the reason for why that is the right name. We will come up also with a deadline. We're talking internally about that at this point in time. But how do you then plan to select the right name for the Mariadb sea lion?
I have a perfect candidate for a judge who knows more about Maria than anybody else, and that's Maria, my daughter.
That's a good suggestion. So let us set up a competition for picking a name for the Mariadb sea lion. It has to have a name, and the name has to have a good reasoning, and it will then be picked out by the person named Maria Videnius, your daughter.
Yep.
So any conclusion?
And I think that, as probably people know, this channel is that Maria and also me are both artists. They do great things, and I think that the one who suggests the best name should get a picture from both of them.
That sounds like a great suggestion that I think we can implement. So any concluding words? Was there a question that you had expected to get that you did not get?
Not really. I'm here with a totally free mind.
So any concluding words, any wishes for the users that you wish to tell them?
Yes, please tell them that we are still continuing this fest the whole week. If you have people in China or Asia, please tell them that this is excellent time to join and get more information. And please spread the news about Mariadb to everybody you know. And about the foundation to all your developers, so we can continue the work that we are doing.
Right. So tomorrow, still later on today, we will continue in New York. Tomorrow is the third and last day of New York. Today is the last day of Paris. And as you say, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll do Singapore and Beijing. So that's the end of the first Mariadb Server Fest that we're having this week. So with those words, thank you, Monty. Thank you, Mikael Widenius, for the Ask Me Anything session.
Thank you.